Good afternoon, everybody. We don't have a whole lot of participants compared to who accepted the invite, so we're going to wait. It typically looks like it takes about 3 minutes for people to get on, so we'll wait till 3 minutes after to get started. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Kimberly, can you hear me okay? Okay. All right, so we are recording this demonstration. My name is Lauren McWilliams, and I am the Talent Acquisition Manager for Animal Supply. I've been here for a little over 2 years now, and I've been in the recruiting field for about 10 years, and I absolutely love it. So I'm very excited to show you guys our new Dayforce applicant tracking system, which I refer to as our ATS. If you saw the announcement go out yesterday morning, applicants are now able to view our job postings and apply directly from our website. So most of our job boards like Indeed and ZipRecruiter have the capability to route applications directly into the ATS, making Dayforce really a one-stop shop for our recruiters and our hiring managers that do the recruiting on their own. So I want to review the agenda for today's demonstration. We will first look over the requisition form. So what do we do now versus what we're doing next? And then some of the pieces on the requisition form that are important, such as new versus replacement, so justification for the position type, the levels of approval, then the form demonstration. And hey guys, I didn't mention this, but please make sure that your lines are muted. At the end, we'll have a question and answer session. Feel free to use the chat box as well. I've got it open, so if you've got any questions, type them in there and I can stop and answer. So after we review the levels of approval, we'll do an actual demo of the form, and we'll look at how to update contact details for alerts to your Outlook inbox from Dayforce. We will also look at the requisition and applicant dashboard to view the status and the ASC website career page. Okay, so some of you might use the form on the left now, some of you might not. We typically have used this form more so for our office positions, but what we had to do is either fill it in on the computer and then send it through email to everybody for their signatures, or we had to print and hand fill it in. And so what we will start using next week will be the form on the right, which we will do a demonstration of in Dayforce. So you can see that it has a lot of functionality to it. It also has an automated workflow on the back end, so it will automatically route to the necessary individuals for the approvals. So we'll talk a little bit more about that now. So when you select a new position, what that means is that it's additional headcount. So if you do have 15 receivers as approved headcount and you need 17, then those 2 would be additional headcount. Or if it's a position or a title that we don't have in our system today, it's just an entirely new position, that's also considered a new position. So what it looks like whenever you submit the requisition form from an approval standpoint is 3 levels. You've got 2-level supervisor, and then it goes to the VP of the area. Next is the replacement. So if it's a replacement, it's definitely an employee. It will be a position that an employee has occupied and vacated a position. So whether it was involuntary or voluntary termination, or if they transferred to a different role within ASC, it would be considered a replacement. And those requisitions will require a 1-level approval, which is just the current supervisor of the individual who's submitting the requisition form. So if you're ready to recruit, you'll log into Dayforce under your supervisor role, submit the electronic requisition form, and once it's fully approved, the position will route to our recruiting dashboard and it will be posted. So now we will go into the demo for Dayforce. All right, so today I am in the test environment in Dayforce, so you might see some old names and old position titles, but I am going to demonstrate as Derek Walther submitting the form. You must be in your supervisor role, And you will go to My HR. You do have two places to access that if you've got it on your favorites bar right here, or if you go to your menu and My HR. Underneath Forms, you'll notice that there is now a recruiting section with an ASC job requisition selection. So this is the form, and I'm going to walk through each one of the fields to explain what they're for. The first one, the request date, pre-populates today's date. And then the reason for opening is what we just talked about, the new or the replacement. So if you select new, you'll see this box over here pops up for similar employee. And that just means if it's a new position and it is a position title that we currently have in place, again, if you just need to bring on another receiver, you would go and find a similar employee and it would pre-populate the data in the system. Otherwise, for the purpose of this demo, we are going to do a replacement. And then you've got, you've noticed that the vacating employee shows up. So it's the same thing. You have the ability to select who's leaving, and which is great because then we can track later, you know, who replaced who. Position type right here. This is very important to pay attention to. For some of you on the call, you will select two of the three from time to time. An office employee is somebody defined by using ASC issued IT equipment and has an email address. So if you do have individuals who have IT equipment and an email address and you did not attend the demonstrations from yesterday, then you will definitely want to watch the video from yesterday. So the difference there is that for the driver and warehouse that you see above the east and west, these individuals do their own recruiting. And so the access is a little bit different for that user role, and the workflow is going to be a little different. So for example, if I choose the driver warehouse east, which I will today, it will flow to the, you know, for the one level approval, it goes to the direct supervisor. But if it's new, it flows through two supervisors and then to the VP. So it would go to Danny. If it's an office employee, it's two level approval, and then it routes to Tricia and then Mary Kay. So so different workflows there. Again, for this one, we're going to go with the driver warehouse east because I am Derek Walther from Shirts. And for the vacating employee, just for the purpose of this, I'm going to pick an individual that the information will pre-populate for. So if there is any information pre-populated in the background, this confirmation ASC job requisition will pop up. And what it means is there's the before, which you can see nothing is filled out. And then it's just letting you know that this is what's going to change. So the location, the title, it will fill in the full-time, hourly, these items will pre-populate. So you'll just review those. And you do have the ability to change them once you've selected OK. And so this one actually does not have a location tied to it on the back end, which is important to see because if you don't select a vacating employee and it doesn't have a location pre-populated, you only have the ability to select the locations that you're tied to. So for Shirts, and then it does say receiving. I do want to cancel out of it just so you guys can see what it looks like without the pre-filled information. All right, so I'm just going to select replacement again, position type east, and then I'm not going to select the vacating employee because I don't want it to pre-populate right now. Okay, so here you can see that you have more options. Because the position title was pre-populated to be the receiver, it only allowed the locations and then the position title, which or the department, the receiving. So here you can see if you're coming in and you don't select the vacating employee, you have the ability to select the positions that your role is tied to. And then for this one, again, it is tied to the location. So I can pick one of these items and I am going to do the receiving receiver. This is going to pop up one more time just because that information is loaded on the back end. Okay, so this is the hiring manager. For this field, it will most often be the individual who is submitting the form right here. If for some reason, Derek is out on, a vacation or, gets sick for a few days and we need to go ahead and get moving on the recruiting ASAP, then the submitter could actually be Kirby and the hiring manager then would be Derek. So the hiring manager does have the ability to come in and select somebody different. Down below is the job description. This is pre-populated in the background for some positions, and I'm going to say that a few times just because I want you guys to know that if you do come in here starting next week and, some of it pre-populates and some of it doesn't, it's just because it's a work in progress on our end, and we didn't want to delay launching this system because we didn't have all of the information loaded in the background. So we are working on that, and hopefully it'll be a great feature for you guys once it all starts to load. But you can review the job description if it populates. There's a space for additional notes. So if you do notice something that's not in there or something that you just feel is very important to point out for this position, you can add it right here, and it will stay in the system and with the requisition. Target start date. The current date will highlight in orange, and this doesn't affect when anything gets started or anything else in the system. So if you just really select 2 to 3 weeks out, that's our recommendation. Pay class and pay type. Another one of the fields that sometimes will pre-populate. So if you're ever unsure, most often you will select full-time or part-time. And if you need help knowing which one to pick, if it's less than 30 hours, it would be part-time. If you're ever entirely unsure, just go ahead and select full-time and we can change it later. Same thing for the pay type. The most often choices would be the hourly non-exempt or the salaried exempt. On our job descriptions in the future, on the above, we will indicate it up here. But at that time, this would pre-populate for you. If you're unsure, then go ahead and just select the hourly non-exempt, and then again we can change it later. Weekly hours and average daily hours. So if a position is going to be 45, 50 hours a week, that's important to note here. And again, it's just kind of a reference to any of the individuals that might be looking at the requisition details. For the daily hours, it's going to be 8 or 10. Some individuals work the 10-hour days, so just go ahead and put that in right here. On the bottom, you'll notice you have the ability to save it. So if for some reason you get in here and you realize that you're not ready to submit it, then you can save the draft and come back to it later. Then you can submit it, cancel it, or print. So today we are going to submit. All right, so now I'm going to go to Kirby King because that's the individual that would get the notifications for approval. And before we do go into the approval, I do want to show you guys how to turn your notifications, the alerts, to Outlook. Because if you aren't in the system regularly and you don't check your Dayforce Message Center on a regular basis, then you definitely want the alerts to come to your Outlook inbox. So if you are in the employee view or the employee role, you have 2 places you can do that. Again, the forms button is usually right here as a default on your favorites bar, or you can go to your menu and then select profile and settings right here. And then you're going to come to contact details. Select add underneath the electronic addresses. The type is business email. Type in your email address and then select alerts. So another reason that I really encourage everybody to add their email address is whenever any of the anytime there's a demonstration that we need to do and there's a specific employee group, so for example, anybody on the call today should be a supervisor or manager of warehouse or drivers, warehouse employees or drivers, and there's not an easy way yet to populate the email addresses. So we do have the ability to run a report in Dayforce for anybody that has a supervisor role. And then it does show any individuals that have put their business email address in the system. And so that makes it easy for us to just copy and paste it into our invites or our emails, the to field. And then if it's not, which, you know, actually the majority of individuals don't have their business email address in here, then we kind of, it could take 2 minutes, but it usually takes about 15 minutes because you have to, you know, go back and forth and cross-reference. So if we, you know, leave anybody off, it's usually just by complete, you know, just an oversight. So anyway, go ahead and take care of that. That will be helpful for everybody. All right, so now we're going to go to Kirby's supervisor role and look at the requisition that was submitted for his approval. And there's going to be 2 different places that he's going to see to see the pending action. So you can see right here down below, there's actually 4 waiting for his approval. And he has the ability to accept or reject them right here. I don't recommend doing that because you won't be able to see all the details within. So what you need to do is come up to your message center, and then you actually just click one and you open it up, and you're going to see the same information. It's just a window within the message, like the requisition form that Derek submitted. So you have the ability to change anything. If you think that something looks wrong, you can come in and change it. You have the ability to add additional notes as well. And then you can put a response. So if there's ever something that you want to respond to, you can always put it right there. And then accept, reject, or print. So if you're somebody that likes to print things, keep them on file for a little bit, or maybe just review it before you accept or reject it, you can print it. And then right down here is the history. You can see that there's the response time, username, and then all of the details within. So the really neat feature about this is if it is a new position, because there's usually a little bit more history there. So it's a nice way to look and see where it's at. We're going to go ahead and accept. And then it goes away. So you can see that now I've got two in this box. All right, so if you do reject it, it stops it. And the work, it just ends. So we will see it in the recruiting dashboard that we're about to go to. But for this, the workflow approval is done. It was a 1-level approval, and it just goes into the dashboard as well. All right, I'm going to switch back to Derek for a moment because I want you guys to see in his message center, and it's actually probably not going to show up right now, but here's a good example. Kirby King approved the transaction, so he gets a message that it was approved. And then you'll see here he also gets messages for if an application has been received. So now I want to show you guys what the recruiting dashboard looks like. So you'll notice that I just went to a different role. It's the recruiter warehouse manager role right here. You don't have that role today, but you will have it next week. So you'll want to make sure whenever you're ready to start your recruiting and looking through candidates, you're in this recruiter warehouse manager role. You'll select the recruiting button right here. And this is an overview. So you can see that the majority of the individuals on this overview have applied via the careers page. And that's because we've had it open to internal applicants. And then the 10% on Indeed was when we were testing it out, and we applied through Indeed. But it's just a really great overview of the source and then the candidate snapshot. So where are they at within the statuses? And we will review this in detail on the next view. So you'll want to click the job requisitions right here. And the first thing I want to show is the columns here to the right. So new, declined, hired. These are the status columns, and those columns are not entirely representative of what's in the live production environment that you guys will see. It's very similar, but we did change it just a little bit. So next is this far left ID column. Every requisition that comes into the system has an individual ID number. And with the approval workflows, you'll see these check marks. There's an X and there's an arrow. So the check marks are for approved positions. And if you click on it, it pulls up the workflow state. So you can see where it went. Derek submitted this requisition. It went to Kirby, was approved. It went to Matthew Summers, it was approved, and then to Danny. And then this one will show you that Matt, he approved it, Danny approved it, but then Trisha rejected it. Now that was when we were testing, so it won't actually go to Trisha, but I just wanted you guys to see how it shows who actually rejected it and when. And then there's the pending approval. So this is really great because, oftentimes, maybe they've overlooked it or they're just really busy, and it's nice for you to say, hey, Kirby, can you take a look at the requisition that I submitted, needs your approval. And then if for some reason they don't approve within 48 hours, it will kick it back a new message to the approver to say, hey, this is pending your approval. All right, so up here is the refresh button. So if you do change a status or change anything within here, you can refresh. Just make sure you refresh it if you're not seeing the change that's made. And then you've got a filter. What the filter is if you do want to filter out some of the information on your screen, because right now this is showing everything. Right now we only have recs that are in the status or reject pending approval, but after time, obviously with the amount of recruiting that we do, this is going to pile up. So you have the ability to select the position, the location, and just really filter it down to a smaller view. And this is really great right here for any individuals that have multiple hiring managers. So for example, if Danny or Matt or Andre or Mike Bowman wanted to come in, they could filter it by the hiring manager right here because they'll have the visibility to all of theirs. And we'll look at that in just a second as well. The next one is the view. You do have the ability to choose what's in your view right here. So if you select choose columns, you'll see that everything is open and selected. You can move things up or down, and what that's going to do is just change what you're seeing right here and the order of them. So if you wanted to see since you're the hiring manager on yours, if you wanted to change the view to where you're not on there, you can take it off. If you want to move the location to the left or the right, you can do that. You just need to make sure that you choose what you want, and then you select apply right here. And then there is a reporting feature, and we will look at that in just a minute. Next, we're going to go into the candidate profile. So I want you guys to see what it looks like whenever you open up a requisition. So we're going to focus on this one today. This is the receiving receiver. Oh, actually, I want to show you guys something else first. Let me exit out of this. But if you need to exit out of it, there's an arrow right here, and you just click it. So with the statuses, you will be able to see there's a number 2 right here, and then you can see up here there's a number 3. And so what that is that's the amount of candidates that are within the status. And so if you want to see these individuals, you would click here. If you want to see these individuals, you would click right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up this requisition again. All right, and what you're looking at is the breakdown of all of the candidates. You can see that there's 2 candidates that have applied to the position. But over right here is the top bar. We're going to go through this one first. The details are everything that was in the requisition that we submitted. Now we'll scroll through them, but you notice that it's gray, so you can't change it. It's already been approved and it's in here. And this is just for reference. And then you go to activity, and you can see right here that the new job requisition was added. So I actually, instead of submitting it as the hiring manager, I submitted it in the on the talent side in the recruiter admin role. So it just shows that I added it. Otherwise, it would show the approvals, and then it also shows like you can see here that I submitted an application and then Brittany submitted an application. You also have the ability to filter dates. So if it's a position that's been open for 60 days, then you can take it down and look at just the past month. And then the last one right here is postings. So you do have visibility to see where are the positions posted. And you can't change anything, but the cool thing is that you're able to select this link right here, and it will pop open the careers page to show you where. If it's on Indeed or ZipRecruiter, it will show you the posting and what it looks like. So if for some reason you pull up a posting and you see something is missing, or maybe you want to take something off, then you can definitely reach out. Today, Kimberly Keach is the one who manages all of our postings, so she would be the person that you would want to reach out to for any help in that area. Okay, we're going to go back to candidates. And if you hover over this, you'll see you don't want to click on the name just yet, because then that will pull up the profile. But if you click in one of the spots over here, it highlights it in blue. And then you have the ability to select where you want to go. Whereas if you click on the name right here, again, it pulls up the profile, and we'll go over that in a minute, but sometimes you already know maybe what you want to do. So anyway, you can select right here, status. Do you want to, oh, okay, well, I know that somebody referred Lauren, so I'm going to move them to hiring manager review. Because again, right now they're in the new status, and the really important thing about the statuses is that it tracks how long each candidate is within any given state of the recruiting. And so one of the things to notice whenever you get in the system, maybe next week, is that you're going to see statuses such as interview talent, review talent. And so that's because you'll see the same statuses that our team sees, and we would definitely use all of the different status buttons. So maybe even there's one that's it says like offer in negotiation. So maybe there's some statuses in there that you guys won't use. But be sure to utilize this feature, because then it'll highlight in the overview, okay, where are the candidates today, and where are we spending our time? So if you do notice that the applicants are spending a lot of time in the review or the interviewing, it's a good way for you to go back and say, okay, let's try to cut this down a little bit. And then there's the decline button. So if you know that you've seen this person before and I'm going to decline them, you can select the decline button. And then there's a decline reason. There are multiple decline reasons, so you want to make sure that you get familiar with the reasons, and then select the best one. And then you can put in a note. And then you can select who it's visible to. Do you want to make it in public? Just means anybody that has access. So, for example, if you're Derek and you make it public, then all of the recruiting team would be able to see it. Kirby, Matt, Danny. So anybody that has access to those individuals would be able to see it. For this, I'm going to cancel because I don't want to decline. And then you can assign. So let's say that somebody has put in an application specifically for a receiver, but you actually just found the perfect candidate, and you've got a shipping position open, or maybe even a supervisor position open, or vice versa. Maybe they applied for a supervisor position and they're not ready for that yet. You can assign them to another requisition. Same filter and view right here. And then there's the contact. You have the ability to send them an email directly from here. So when they go through the application process, they are required to put in an email address. And so if you click the button, it will prompt your Outlook to pull up an email and send it to them. This right here, the Send Vevra, what that is actually the Vietnam Era Veterans Readjustment Assistance Act. It doesn't apply to our company, so there's no need to send it. We haven't figured out a way yet to disable it from the options. So just make sure you don't click it, because if you do click it, it will automatically send an email to the candidate. So we definitely want to make sure that we're not doing that. Okay, and so just like your emails, there is a way to mark them as viewed or unviewed. Now we're going to pull up the profile. And so some of this information is in the system because I am an employee and I applied. Hopefully it loads here in a minute. Okay, so pay attention to this top blue box right here. This is going to pull up their address, their most recent job title, and their most recent employer. This is add a note, so it's just like we saw on the last screen. You have the ability to add a note from here. It will pull up the exact same box that we just saw. This arrow button right here will collapse that view. So if you don't want to look at that, then you don't have to. And then the actions. This is the same thing that we saw on the other bar. It just helps if you have 50 new applicants to look through. Right here, you have the ability to select the drop-down box and look at the names, or filter through left and right, rather than the other view where you don't see the details. So let's say that I wanted to look at this application first, and then I go through it and I decide, okay, well, I definitely want to put this person through to interviews. I'm going to update the candidate status right here to interviewing, and then move on to the next person. Or I want to contact them. I can do that from right here, and then I can move on. There's nothing under more action, because that's you can see it kind of says link to employee record. That's not a feature that we're going to use here. And then you can add tags. So if you want to, I don't know if anybody uses a scoring system or a rating system, or if you just put in there any kind of tag, like great resume, or if you come up with your own system, this is something we can talk about later, but you can add tags and then later pull up individuals with the tag. All right, so this is application and applied jobs. So we are on the application page, and I'm going to go over to the applied jobs really quick because it's shorter. But you can see right here that I've actually applied to quite a bit of jobs multiple times. So it's kind of cool to come in and see that, okay, this individual is just applying to every job that they think they qualify for. And this is when. So you can see back here in January of 2017, I applied to all of these positions. All right, so back under the application, there's the candidate info, the questionnaires, and any additional documents. We're going to go through the candidate information first, but give me just a second. I'm going to take a break. Quick break, like 3 seconds. Okay, sorry guys. All right, so underneath the candidate details right here, you're going to see this summary come up, and this is actually a really neat feature what it did is it analyzed the information that I put into this work experience down here. And it basically just said that I appear to be lower to mid-level with about 2 years experience and no management experience. It's going to give you any personal information right here. Candidate source, so I applied via careers. And then work experience. I put in a very small bit right here. And so you're able to see all of the work experience summarized right here. And then education, references, and then work availability. So this is a really cool thing. Whenever you're actually applying, you can click these checks to say, okay, I'm not available on Sundays at all. And then Monday, Tuesday, I'm available all day. Whenever they're in the system applying, they just click on that little dot and drag it over, and it's colorful, it's not gray. And then right here, you can see on Wednesday, I'm only available starting from 8 a.m. And then you keep going down and you can see this is my current employee profile because I am an employee. So it's going to show when I was hired and who my current manager is, all that great stuff. The information down below, nothing pre-populates here because I did not enter anything in. So the next thing to look at is the questionnaires. And this is the additional information that was asked during the application process. So you'll see the things that you've seen on the paper application today. So you just scroll through and check out their answers. And I guess a really important thing to point out here, for those of you that hire drivers, there will be much more information in this section. It might not begin next week. We might just have the drivers apply using our basic application on here and then fill out any of the other specific driver questions, which if you hire drivers, you're familiar with all the questions that are required. And so very soon, though, we might only have to do it for a week or two. All of the information that's required will be electronic, and they will be able to fill it out. And this is where you're going to see it. Additional documents. So if they do happen to upload a resume or upload anything else, it is going to be here, and you will be able to click on it and then select download. All right, so I'm pretty sure, let me go through my notes real quick. I think that covers everything on the candidate dashboard. So right there, again, you just toggle over if you want to look at the next candidate and any of their information. All right, so what we're going to do next is take a look at Matt Summers' view. Again, I just wanted you guys to see how the visibility that he has to the individuals on his team. All right, so you'll notice right here, you see the hiring manager. You can actually click, and I didn't mention this earlier, if you ever want to filter these in a particular order, you can click on the column and it alphabetizes them. So you can see right here, you've got Kirby, Matt, Mike, Derek. So Matt's going to be able to see anybody that reports to him on his team. And then underneath the reports, you can come here and there's two reports. There's the job requisitions and candidate activity. This top one and bottom one are the same. And so for this one, I'm just going to pull up candidate activity because it's a little shorter. This box is going to pop up because the permissions have been restricted. So you just click it to make it go away. And then the only, I say the only thing you can do, I mean, this is pretty great information, but the only thing you can do is select run. But if you wanted to, you could look at the fields. So this is the fields that it's going to populate. But anything else that you see is just already configured in the back information or the back end. So I'm going to select run. And this feature is not specific to in any specific role. It is within this recruiter warehouse manager role, so you all have the ability to do that. And then you can come in and you can put in any filters that you might want to. Usually you probably just, put in the dates that you want and then select run. And for this demo, I am actually going to exit out because I already ran it. Sometimes it takes, 1 to 3 minutes to populate in the message, but it will go to your message inbox here. So you can see that it comes up just like another message. You would click it, and it's going to ask you to open below, and then it opens in Excel. Okay, so very, very simple report. It's just going to pull up all of the information in an Excel document for you, so you can go through and take a look at all of it. Okay, now if anybody on the call is new, or I want to say it just as a reminder, for job openings, to see any opportunities, there's a couple of places for internal employees. If you're in your employee role, then you can go to the careers. Some of you might have it on your favorites bar right here. Otherwise, you go to your menu and go to careers. And it's going to show you any of our positions that we currently have open. So make sure whenever you are onboarding somebody, you let them know that this is here and available for them to see and apply. Maybe they, or maybe not apply, maybe they know somebody. Very, a great tool for referrals. And then we now have our careers page on our website. So if you haven't had a chance to look, I'm going to show you now. It is split up into 3 different sections, and unfortunately, that's not loading. Let's see if we can get it to load. So the top one takes you to the Dayforce, which I'll show you in just a second. The driver trucks and working in warehouses, they take you to the same place. It's all of our postings on Indeed. And the reason we wanted to do the separate buckets was just to say, look, we hire in our offices, driver trucks, work in our warehouses. And in the beginning, we didn't think we would be ready necessarily to open up the recruiting to our driver and warehouse supervisors, but we are. So for now, what you'll see is if you go to work in our offices and select See Jobs, this window opens up below, and you can see this is this shows our postings. Now, an important thing to point out is that this is not always going to be representative of what's in Dayforce, because after the positions in Dayforce have been posted for 7 days, they expire. So anyway, this view will be the exact same for the other 2. It's just really calling out the different employee groups and trying to highlight some of the neat things. So if you do go to the driver, you'll see we have a quote below from a transportation individual. I think that covers it. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so I got one in the chat. This recording, we are going to save the recordings to the onboarding SharePoint for now, unless somebody determines that something else makes more sense. So everybody on the call should have access to the onboarding SharePoint. If not, reach out to me, and I will make sure that you get that. So we will get it up and saved next week. Are there any other questions? You're welcome. I know I go through it pretty fast, so don't hesitate to hold back and ask any questions.
Hey guys, it's Kimberly here. Can you hear me? Okay. I just want to reiterate that feel free to reach out, even though you will be doing the requisition forms for drivers and warehouse soon through Dayforce. I'm still controlling the postings. And so if you have any questions with postings, or if you get into it and you maybe are confused about how the best way to do it, feel free to, of course, reach out to Lauren, but also reach out to me because I am still managing those. So it's just a little bit of a different process than normal because I know you guys feel really comfortable reaching out to me to post stuff. So we're just going to have it routed through Dayforce. But as always, feel free to reach out.
Okay, and really quick, I did forget one thing. One of these days on one of the calls, I'm not going to forget something, but the process for hiring somebody, so whenever you're ready to hire somebody, it's going to be the same. So whenever you do get into the dashboard right here, you just move the candidate to offered, send your message over to Deandra. She will then be able to go into the employee record and select hire. From that point forward, it's actually much more simple for her. It automatically loads everything that's in the system and takes it through. So again, whenever you're ready to make an offer to somebody, just move them to offered, let us know that they're there and their name, and we'll go in and move them over to hired. And it will update over here for you to show that they are going through the system to be hired. So definitely did not want to forget that part. So are there any questions? Okay, if not, Tricia actually asked us to give a really quick breakdown on submitting time off. So Angie Laura's on the line, and I'm so sorry, Angie, I know you usually go, you take a little bit more time to go through it, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Angie. Thank you everybody for joining, really excited to see how it goes. If any questions or concerns, issues come up whenever we go live in the system next week, please feel free to reach out to me or anybody on my team.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren, and congrats on all these great milestones for the recruiting team. All right, everybody, so I'll try to go really fast, and for those of you that need more information, we'll be more than happy to, talk to your teams or, take any personal questions or questions your teammates have in a different call. So, don't feel like if you didn't get all the information that you needed that that we won't be able to help you, because we will be able to. So I'm going to share my screen, and you guys please log into your Dayforce and follow along. It'll be really helpful for you to follow the same steps. That way you can know when your teammates ask you, and if they haven't asked you about time off changes in the calendar year, they will soon, especially as we get closer to the end of the year. For my California managers and Washington managers, David, Paul, Steve, you guys have it a little bit different with your state regulations, and I know you guys know how it works with your teams, but this is still probably very informational for you to kind of see where to go in the system and be able to guide your teammates. All right, so when you're in Dayforce, you'll want to go to your employee role, and on your home screen there's going to be an icon that says balances. This is going to give you a snapshot of what your balances or your time off balances are in the system as of today, with the most recent accrual. There's two different banks. California, you have a little bit different setup, but the personal aid bank, as you guys know, we're implementing all of these amazing changes to make it easier. We know that having two personal aid buckets kind of split up is complicated for employees to understand. And so we are combining the two banks into one. It's going to be one beautiful bank next year. Employees will only know to go to one bank and won't have to decide which bank to go to. So you're either going to go to a vacation bank or a personal leave bank. And in the personal leave bank, instead of having two different banks with the 40-hour caps, you're going to have one bank with 80. So I know that the accrual here, and let me pull up my my snapshot so I can kind of highlight for you guys, but we're looking here at personal leave current year, and we're looking at prior year. What's going to happen is my remaining grants, which I have 40 and 8, and the reason why they're in different columns, don't worry about it. We're going to change that next year. It's going to look a little bit different. This is just kind of due to old configuration. But here you have, this is my personal account. So I have 40 and 8. I have 48 hours. At the end of the year, these 48 hours are going to combine. And then on 1/1/18, I'm going to get my new 40 because I'm a full-time employee hired before 1/1/18. I'm going to have full 40 hours. The 48 combines with the 40. I'm going to have 88. And guess what happens? The bank has the cap of 80 hours, so I'm going to lose 8. So if I'm trying to help myself or even a teammate strategize, the recommendation here is you want to make sure that your year-end balance in your personal leave buckets is 40 hours or less, okay? So for some people, it's not a big deal. You know, that personal leave bucket is there for emergencies or personal reasons. If they lose a day, you're okay. But knowing from what we hear, you know, people don't want to lose their time. So this is a way to kind of help them. So you can get that screenshot right here from your balances tab. And by the way, if you guys don't have the Dayforce HCM Smart app on your phones, get it. Get your teammates to get it. They can do a lot of things from it. They can request time off. They can see their balances. They can see their earnings statements. There's a bunch that they can do. They can even send you messages. So it's a really neat app. But from here, what you want to do to see what your year-end balance is, because vacation is a little bit different. That personal leave is front-loaded, as you guys know. And let me pull this up so you guys can see it. We communicated this to the company in a company-wide communication last month. And so this is kind of what you'll want to review when people have questions. But this section right here that kind of breaks down the hourly and the salary, make sure you guys read it and understand, you know, that 90-day introductory period now applies to all your hourly employees, which was a really big change. It was something that our leadership felt really strongly about. So now your new hires cannot take time off within their first 90 days in either personal leave or vacation. So please make sure you read this through and understand how that works. And I'll also be referencing the other communication, which was this one. It'll come really in handy as I show you the next screen in Dayforce and what columns to look at. But both of these were sent in October. And if you guys need it again, just let us know and we'll shoot it to you. But back to the screen, once you're here, you can get to your time away from work multiple ways. It may be here in your favorites bar, which you guys know you can edit what you see there. You can go to your menu and you can go down to your work and it'll be there. But for ease, I'm just going to go ahead and click it here. Now, what I want to show you now is vacation. So personally, ignore the accruals. It doesn't accrue. It's front loaded. That's just the way the system was configured. We're hoping to update that later. For here, this is how you can tell what your year-end balance is in vacation. And that balance is important. That piece of information is what your teammate needs to know in order to understand what is going to carry forward next year. Okay, so think about it. We've had this really awkward time off calendar from May 1st to April 30th. Now we're going to a calendar year, which is awesome. You know, when people plan time off, they really want to think about their time off in a calendar year sense. So because of this change, the calendar year for this year is short, right? We don't have 12 months. We have 8 months from May 1st to December 31st. So everybody is going to accrue or earn a certain portion of their total grant, okay? Their total grant is the amount of time that they're eligible for. And how do you know what you're eligible for? Well, if you go to our handbook, there is the kind of seniority table that tells you how many hours you accrue per pay period. That is in the handbook if you ever need to see it. But the service is from 1 year to 10 year and over 10 year, okay? So it's based on tenure. When you click this drop-down box of balances, what you want to do, again, this is a snapshot as of right now. You want to go to the date you want to calculate, so 12/31/17. You can hit enter, just click away. The system will do a little recalculation, and right here will give you your future accrual on this date. So my vacation bucket on 12/31, I would have accrued 80 hours of my 120. I'm entitled to 3 weeks. I would have accrued 2 weeks of the 3 weeks. Okay. So what happens on January 1st, 2018? These 80 hours, they're a positive accrued balance. If I don't use any of this time from here until December, I'm going to carry forward 80 hours. That means in this short year, the transition, the adjustment is a positive 80 hours. So what happens on 1/1/18? I get my new grant of 3 weeks plus these 80 hours that have already been accrued. Okay, so now I'm going to be entitled to 200 hours next year, and there is no more April 30th expiration date. And now goes all the way to December 31st of 2018. I actually get more time to use these 80 hours, which is a really nice thing. So what happens on the flip side? This is the part that most people get a little bit confused about. But if you understand how the system or how our policy works with the accrual, then it is really easy to explain. What happens if I had taken 100 hours off, right? Let's say, because that is our policy, right? You're entitled to 3 weeks or 2 weeks or 1 week. But if you have the dream vacation of the year next year and you want to take the 2 weeks in the middle of the summer and you haven't fully accrued it, that's fine. We want you to be able to take the time, and we want the employees to take the time when they need it. So they don't have to wait until it's been accrued to use it. And so what happens is people's accruals go into the negative, which is normal. Eventually it'll catch up, right? Because it'll catch up at the very last pay period and the very last accrual. So what happens if I take 100 hours off and I have a negative 20 here, right? Because I would have only accrued 80 and I took 100, so it's a minus 20. It's the same concept. That minus 20 rolls forward to next year, but instead of adding it to my 3-week grant, it's going to deduct it from my 3-week grant. It's just a little adjustment that needs to happen because the employee took the time off before it was earned. And so then my balance then, instead of being 120, is actually 100 hours. So that's how that piece works. And that was like super uber fast. But you guys, this is intended to be really conversational, so please unmute your lines. Let me know what you're hearing from your teammates, you know, what questions you guys have gotten. I can't believe you all are being quiet, especially like having Abe on the line and Gary. You guys are never quiet. All right.
Hey, Angie, it's, hey, from my perspective,
I knew it.
when Carol came out and explained it, and we had it translated, we had a translator explain it, everything made sense. So the guys are fine, and they're on board, and they understand what's going to happen.
Okay, awesome. Good.
So no confusion
well,
here.
Good. If you guys hear otherwise, if you've got a bunch of teammates that are confused, just let us know. Anybody in the HR team can help you. We'll be more than happy to. All right, guys. Well, let's respect everyone's time. Lauren, thanks again for putting this together. And guys, let us know if you need any help.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.